Hollywood can make it up. So, like I said, the worst of the worst were housed in this building between 1878 and 1962. But none were worse than this man right here. His name, Clemente Apolinar. Now, Clemente Apolinar was a young man who lived in Floresville, Texas, to the southeast of us here. Now, Clemente lived by himself, had no horse, so he would walk to San Antonio, which is a 10 to 12 hour walk in the Texas heat. And on his journey, he would stop at a watering point. And that watering point was known as Salado Creek. Well, one day in 1921, he arrived at Salado Creek hoping to get a drink of water. When he looked down and he saw that there was mud and silt and dirt, and this made him angry. Determined to find out the cause of this, he walks up creek and finds two brothers, Kirby and Theodore Barnhart. And he picks up a giant rock and he begins to chase the two brothers. Now, folks, y'all ever heard the story about the two men running from a grizzly bear? One guy stops to put on his running shoes, and his friends ask him, "What are you doing?" He says, "I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just have to be faster than you." Well, Kirby was a lot faster than Theodore. You see, Clemente caught up to Theodore and began to bash him over the head with a rock until he was dead. Then Clemente, oh, by the way, I assumed that everybody wanted to hear the real version. You still want to? Okay, good. All right. Then he pulls out his pocket knife, cuts Theodore from ear to ear, then cuts him down the middle of the face, opens up, peels the skin off of his face, exposing the brain. Then Clemente begins to play with the brain matter, rubs it on himself and the poor child. Then takes that same pocket knife, splits open the legs and opens them up. Then, before he leaves the body, takes a souvenir, an eyeball, and puts it in his shirt pocket, and then walks the rest of the way to San Antonio. And when he gets there, he begins knocking on doors, asking for a drink of water, saying, "Does this look like an eyeball to you? Does this look like an eyeball to you? You can't see it, so does this look like an eyeball to you?" Now, many people shrug this off as Clemente being Clemente. But in San Antonio, you don't get to brag without the law finding out. Well, they did. They found him passed out on the floor of a bar in San Antonio, drunk, still with the eyeball in his pocket, covered in the same poor child's blood. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he was hauled off to the Old Bexar County Jail, and 2 years later, February 23rd, 1923, was his execution date. Now, San Antonio Old Bexar County Jail was different from most jails. You see, when they executed a prisoner, they didn't build the gallows in the backyard like many other places did. No. Bexar County is ahead of the game. They built a built-in hanging gallows in their building. On the third floor was where the trap door was located, and it would drop to the second floor, where there would be a 100-person viewing room for all to watch you die by strangulation. Now, on that morning, Clemente was walked down the hallway of the third floor. The inmates jeered him, for they knew what he had done, and they had no pity on him. But they sang songs almost mockingly as, "Nearer, my God, to thee, and Lord, I'm coming home to sin no more." He gets to the trap door. They offer him a hood. He refuses. He's the only one in Bexar County Jail history to ever refuse a hood. They place the noose over his neck, and then at 11 a.m., they pull the lever for that short drop and sudden stop. But ladies and gentlemen, this is where things go terribly wrong. You see, maybe on Clemente's last meal, he gained a little weight. Nonetheless, when he dropped, the rope began to tighten around his neck so much that it pulled his head from his shoulders. And as the rope stopped, his body began to spin. What a lucky day for those 100 people who got the tickets to the viewing room. Where you say, anybody ever been to SeaWorld? Ever heard of the Splash Zone? They did it first. Now, horrified at what they had seen, many people came running out of the jail. Pandemonium was in the street, for everybody saw these blood-soaked people running out of the jail, and an uproar occurred. So, Clemente was the last inmate to ever be hung in the Bexar County Jail. You see, Bexar County went to a more humane method of execution. They brought a little invention known as Old Sparky. Now, like I said, this building was closed as a jail in 1962 because of overcrowding. They built a newer jail. This building sat underutilized for about 40 years until in 2000, the city put it up for sale for the low price of $800,000. Which, ladies and gentlemen, that may seem like a lot of money, but when we're talking commercial property, that's bottom of the barrel. Comfort Inn and Suites says, oh yeah, let's do it. We're going to tear this building down and we're going to put a new hotel on there. Whoa, can't do that. It's on the historical registry of, it's on the National Registry of Historic Landmarks. So not only can you not tear it down, but you have to keep 25% of the building original. Hence the reason why. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, Comfort Inn and Suites hears all this and they go, we're out. Holiday Inn Express, however, hold my beer. Here they come. Holiday Inn Express, not only did they keep the bars on the windows, but they kept the original structure. Okay. Now, they took out the cells and put room numbers or rooms in there, but you will not receive a room number when you check in. You receive a cell number. Now, also, when renovating for this building, they found in the basement the good old bloody noose that had hung our old friend Clemente. And somebody in the upper management thought it would be a great idea to take that noose and put it on display in the main lobby for all the guests to see. Now, folks, this happened just very recently. In fact, many people were horrified about it, that there was a protest. And alas, the sheriff's department came and took it, where they put it on display in their main lobby. Now, if you thought that all the inmates have checked out, you are sadly mistaken. For on the third floor, cursing, yelling, screaming can be heard, but more frightening is the sound of tin cups being dragged across iron bars. The second floor has its own ghosts, where as you're walking down the second floor in the hallway, you can see shadowy figures dangle and sway from side to side and then disappear.
From the second floor.
There was a man who was sleeping on the second floor in this building and heard a loud bang! And he sat up and looked and saw one of those shadowy figures swaying and then disappeared into thin air.
Oh my goodness. You're on
Now,
the
on the second floor, furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, there was a body chute. For when they hung the bodies from the third floor and they reached the second, they were no longer living. So they would cut the body down, send it down a body chute to the basement, where there was a crematorium, where if your family did not claim your body, you would be burned, and the ashes would be buried in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
You're staying there, right?
Yeah.
What's in the backyard?
A swimming pool?
Yes, the swimming pool. Has anybody ever seen Poltergeist? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're staying there, you can act out that. Wait, don't go. Don't go. You can act out that same scene at the end of Poltergeist.
Oh, God.
Now, a few years ago, we had a young man who approached Sisters Graham and said that he worked there. And he told us some very interesting stories. One of which, in order to work there, he had to sign 2 waivers. One, he knew the entire history of the building inside and out and was okay with it. Number 2, more frightening, was that he did not have any pre-existing heart conditions. It wasn't long until he figured out why. You see, one night he was working security and a young man came running down to the lobby wearing a t-shirt and boxer shorts with his luggage in tow. I don't know why everybody runs to the front lobby naked. It's just like, whatever. Anyways, he shows up there and then says, I'm getting out of here, I'm checking out, I don't care, just run in on my credit card, I'm done, I'm gone. They say, hold on, sir, what happened? He says, I was up in my room working on my computer late at night when all of a sudden my laptop was ripped from my hands, it levitated in the air and then was flung across the room where it busted a hole in the wall and shattered into hundreds of pieces. And there was nobody in that room but me. I'm done, I'm gone. Packed his car, took off. Never saw him again. Sure enough, security went to check the room out, and there was his laptop in hundreds of pieces on the floor, underneath a giant hole in the wall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a cheap place to stay, or perhaps a cheap place to drop off unwanted in-laws, might I suggest the Holiday Inn Express, or as we call here, the Old Bexar County Jail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we end tonight, this is something that I personally do for everybody who comes on my tours. We've talked a lot about some dark, grim history tonight. But before we leave, I would like to leave you with a little bit of light. So allow me to part upon you this blessing. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance up to you and grant you peace. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a fantastic audience this evening. I thank you. It has been my pleasure to be your tour guide. Now, don't freak out.